Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I'm Gino Buccola alongside Mike Beer, and we're going to head on out to Gulfstream Park to preview a stakes race for this weekend, Saturday, race number 7. It's the Gulfstream Park Sprint, $140,000 up for grabs, 6 furlongs on the dirt. Mike, you and I were kind of talking before we started recording. Feels like a 2-horse race. That's where we're kind of going to lean in our selections there. You have Nakatomi. This horse was actually the second betting choice in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And the race just didn't shape up for him, but was one of the better sprinters, going into that race. And then you have Comedy Town on the outside, multiple stakes winner, grade 2 place, has just run really, really well since Safi claimed this runner and lost to a nice horse named Damon's Mound last time out. Those just kind of feel like the two that are going to get good trips and probably the two classiest in the race.
That's how I looked at it too. I mean, listen, I don't want to, just concede the race to the two
No,
favorites here. There are other horses in here who can certainly contend, but Nakatomi and Comedy Town, they feel like they've got the class heading into this thing. Nakatomi, don't get me wrong, he's no superstar, but he's a rock solid sprinter. And this just feels like a really good spot for them, to kick off his 2025 campaign as a 6-year-old. He had a pretty good year last year from limited starts.
he's a grade 1 winner. And as we look at the pace projector, not only are they the classiest, Mike, they probably get a trip because it just feels like Super Chow, he goes. We know what we're going to get with him. Concrete Glory, he wants to go. He's very quick. So those two at least should be pushing it. And then a horse like Swervin, who draws the rail down on the inside, he actually has some speed if they want to use it. And he might be forced a little bit down on the inside. So I could see the three of them hooking up, and it probably sets up pretty well for the 7 and the 4.
I looked at it the exact same way, Gino. We'll see how it all plays out. Maybe this paper projector's got it right and Super Chow's fastest early, but I thought both the 1 and the 6 could really make things complicated for him up front.
Maybe a Super Chow from like a year ago or a couple years ago where he was a little bit sharper, but he seems like he's kind of lost a step. So I don't know if he's got that same sort of clear the field speed in a race like this. Let's meet this field for the Gulfstream Park Turf Sprint. From the inside, you have the number 1 Swervin, stakes winner in 2023. He was basically eased when he ran in this race last year. He's going to have to improve on Nakatomi and Comedy Town, who have gotten the better of him in recent races. He did stumble just after the start last time out, but he was able to get towards the front end, and he was able to get the lead, had some pressure down on the inside. He held second. That wasn't a bad effort. I think Cyclone Mischief is going and running in the, one of the big races. So what do we think about Swerve in there?
Yeah, listen, obviously he's got a lot to prove. They ran him in 3 stakes races last year, and he was just not competitive in any of the
No.
3. So it just feels like, at least at this stage of the game, these races are way too tough for him. He ran fine last time, but
Yeah.
and the winner was really good. Don't get me wrong, but this horse had no excuse last time. He was no match.
Gordian Knott, Pennsylvania bred stakes winner, grade 2 placed, and he's now going to move into the Todd Pletcher barn for the first time. We actually have a Formulator fact, I believe, on Gordian Knott. And this is one that's a little bit interesting because with barns like Pletcher, the really good barns, you kind of assume that they're going to move horses up right away. But Todd, one, isn't a claiming trainer, right? He's not down in the claiming ranks, claiming horses and moving them up. So when he gets them, they're usually private purchases or something along the lines of just different acquisitions. And you figure that they're going to get bet a lot when they have that name Todd Pletcher up there, Mike. So not all that great with something like this first start after a trainer switch.
Yeah, and this is a horse who's been in 2 good barns already. Two barns that they just win a lot of races, and so we'll see what Todd can do. This horse, to me, Gordian Knott was pretty tough to make in here. Gino, he just, he seems like he needs to be really well spotted to be really competitive, and I'm not sure that races like this are races that necessarily suit him. A fast pace would help his chances for sure. If you want to go back, maybe you want to talk about his most recent start. I don't know if you bothered to go through the replay. Did he
He
get
did
in
have,
trouble at the stretch of that race?
yeah,
Yes. Did it cost him? I'm not so sure.
I know, and he won 6 of his first 8 races, Mike, and he's just won for 7 since. And you
Yeah,
pointed out, it's not like he was in really low percentage barns or barns that can't get a horse to win. And he
really.
was in probably softer spots some of the time too, even against state bred. So, if he is any type of a shortish price, he's definitely one that you may want to look against looking at this DRF formulator stat. Let's go to Okiro. Stakes winner on the synthetic got put up via DQ for the only win on the turf. And he actually has, I believe, the lowest buyer top in the field. I just got to see one from him on the dirt a little bit, Mike, before I can play him in this spot.
Yeah, a wild card in this race for sure for Safi Joseph. He's cross entered into a race at Turfway on the all weather on Sunday down there, and that race, it's an allowance, a high priced allowance option claim. That race might be even tougher than this one. There's just a bunch of stakes horses in there. I don't know. This might be a spot for Safi to just say, you know what, we'll keep him here and try dirt with him for the first time. I thought he was a little interesting, Gino, because maybe he's got the right running style if he can handle dirt. Obviously, it's all contingent on that. But he's got the right running style for this race where if they go in front of him, maybe he can just sit and make a run from off the pace. And there's a little dirt pedigree in this female family. So I don't love him in here, but I can see using him underneath.
Absolutely. If you're looking for that wild card type of horse, he hasn't been beat on the dirt over and over. There's a case to be made for him. He could have some upside on that surface. Nakatomi, as you pointed out, Mike, is just really well spotted in here. He's a grade 1 winner. He'll be making his first start since the Breeders' Cup, so 3.5 months to deal with. He just kind of lost position. He was 3 deep. He was in between. He backed up to 9th. He was about 6 lengths off. It was a really weird run race where there wasn't a whole lot of passing. Straight No Chaser was kind of involved, dropped back, kind of came on again. All that being said, he's not like a horse who's unbeatable or a monster or anything. He's just a really solid fit in this spot. Like, he's classier than most of them. He feels like he's going to get a pretty good trip. It's a really nice starting spot for him for the year.
Exactly. I don't have anything to add to that. Again, he's no superstar, but he's really good. He's rock solid. This is a great spot for them to kick off his campaign. Listen, he's probably a short price in here, and if you feel like just taking a shot against him, I'm not going to argue with that. It's not like he's unbeatable, but I just think he's good, and he can get the right trip in this race too. I'm not going to defend his Breeders' Cup too much, Gino. Like, he was never going to win that race, but he was never in position to really be effective. He got way too far back early. He actually ran through the stretch.
Super Chow, very quick. Kind of one-dimensional speed, though. He got very good last year. He won 3 of 4 graded stakes races in early 2024. Just hasn't really been at his best in the last 4, and he's going to have to deal with a horse like Concrete Glory right to his outside. I will say that he exits a race that's come back very strong. Mike, the Mr. Prospector, where Mufasa won that race. The runner-up White Abario came back, and we saw him air in the Pegasus. Little Vic came back and won a graded stakes, I think, stretching out after that, too. So it has been a strong race, but he was well defeated in there, and he kind of ran the same race that he's been running, which isn't as good as his better races.
Yeah, he was in a tough spot last time. I wouldn't be too hard on him for that. But you mentioned that he got sort of in good form early last year. All 3 of those wins, though, Gino, on off tracks, first of all, which obviously he likes. And the other thing, particularly the 2 in New York, the Toboggan and the Tom Fool. I mean, talk about slow paces for sprint races. This horse just got absolutely loose on slow paces, and I thought took advantage. And I just don't see this race being run that way.
Now, Concrete Glory to his outside could also be putting a little bit of pressure on him. I want to give this horse some respect, though. He's a 15-time winner. He's won 3 of his last 4 and 5 of his last 7, but all that's come against softer company. His best speed figures would put him right in the mix, and he loves Gulfstream Park, but another one who you don't really have many races where he's sat off horses. Like, he's like on the lead and winning, or if he's kind of headed, he backs up.
Yeah, and that's probably how they're going to have to ride him here too. That most recent start is a good example of that. They just had to go from an inside post. He contested the pace, and he wound up winning that race pretty convincingly. Listen, his speed figures say he's competitive. His speed says that he's competitive. This is obviously a pretty big step up in class. I mean, Safi Joseph, all credit to him. 9 wins out of this horse. They claimed this horse for $6,250.
Yep. And then we round out the field with Comedy Town, another Safi Joseph claim that's been very, very successful. Mike, this is a multiple stakes winner, grade 2 placed. He ran really well last time out. He was 4th of 5. He was a couple lengths off. I think we have a replay here. He's the gray, and he's moving to the front end right now. So he looks like he's a winner. He just loses to a pretty nice horse that was battling back on the inside of him, a horse that was coming off a layoff, Damon's Mound. So, I mean, Comedy Town feels like a horse who's just solid for this field. Kind of know what you're going to get from him. He has some speed, but he can sit off a little bit. So, I mean, I think he's just a really good fit in this race.
Very logical horse in here. I guess they just, his first couple trainers just didn't realize that he was a dirt horse. And Safi Joseph figured it out. I mean, since they switched him to dirt, he's been really good. I thought he ran fine last time, Gino. He had no excuse in that race necessarily, but the pace wasn't that fast, and he had to come from off it a little bit. I thought he ran fine in that.
There's your field for the Gulfstream Park Sprint. Now let's see how we stack them up here. 4-7 for you, Mike, and I'm not going to be too much different from you there. I'll just go 7-4 on top. Anything you want to add?
I couldn't really get interested in any of the longer prices here, Gino, so I kept it logical and went 4-7.
I mentioned this before, Mike. I'm not really a numbers player. My mom is. My Nanu was, and my Nanu's numbers were 4 7s. He would box them, and the chalkier, the better for my Nanu.
There you
He
go.
was a chalk player. So I know he's looking down right now. He'll be playing some 4 7s on Saturday over at Gulfstream Park. However you play, whoever you play, best of luck.